because I was really scared of my cravings. We don't have to be scared of them. And when we get on top of them and transform them, they can actually serve us. They actually provide this really great opportunity. So let me know if you can see me, hear me, interact with me in the comments. Let me know any questions you have. So what makes cravings so scary? I was terrified of my cravings. What makes them so irresistible, right? So I was terrified of my cravings because I didn't know I had a choice. I sort of felt like if I'm having a lot of cravings, I got to give in to them. And why is that? They're actually painful, right? They hurt. Like, oh, I said I wasn't going to eat that, but now I really want to eat that. Or I said I wasn't going to drink that, but I remember I used to say a lot in the morning, I'm not going to have wine tonight. I need a break, right? I'm just not going to do it tonight. And then by the end of the day, yes, I am. I am going to have the wine. I want it. I need it. I crave it, right? And there are certain foods and drinks in our food environment that cause that kind of craving. Now I look at them very differently than I used to, but I used to see them as so critical for my enjoyment of life, right? It was part of my identity to go for the most highly pleasing, exciting, craveable food and drink. And I cared about it being healthy. But these cravings are painful, are scary because they hurt. Right? They provoke a lot of internal conflict. So the interesting thing to start paying attention to is any foods or drinks that are pleasing, but also carry stress with them, right? I really want this, but I also really don't want this. I wasn't going to do this, but now I am going to do this. Anything that causes that kind of stress is a pleasure that may be costing too much. That's one thing I finally started realizing. So it's provoking conflict in yourself, like it's provoking this kind of fighting, like I want to, I don't want to. Who are these people in there? And would one of them shut up? Because this is really stressful and I know how to make it shut up. I'm going to eat or drink the thing that I'm having the urge to eat or drink. It's very similar to a phobia. I studied anxiety disorders and I studied phobias partly because I had a phobia. I still have the phobia, but I have had treatment for it and I understand. The best way to make a phobia worse, to make a fear of something worse, is to kind of run away from the thing causing the fear. So I'm scared of needles, right? I'm scared of procedures at the doctor's office and needles. And so I remember going for a surgery once, and my friend that went with me, they come in with the IV bag and they're like going to put a needle in me, and I'm like getting my clothes on and getting ready to go. And that's going to give me relief immediately from the anxiety that the stimulus caused, right? So similarly with cravings, I know I can make the craving stop if I just have the thing. And we start to feel like we have to, like we don't have a choice. So one of the biggest things to know is we absolutely do have a choice. It got super helpful to me to remember that the part of my brain that's saying you need to eat the thing or drink the thing, is not the part of my brain that's wise, right? It's my primitive brain. And my primitive brain kind of thinks everything, all the habits that it's got running, right, are keeping me alive. And so it gets kind of scared. It gets really defensive of my habits, thinking they're keeping me alive. This is why breaking habits and making new habits is a lot bigger deal than we tend to think it's going to be. It doesn't actually have to be hard, especially when we're really clear what we're doing, we're really committed. It can get relatively easy if we have a support and accountability and all those things. But it's not just a matter of tomorrow I'm going to stop eating or drinking this thing. Oh, I think I'll put it off until the next tomorrow. And I think I'll put it off until after my birthday. And after that cruise, right? So the habits are likely to want to keep running unless we're super clear what we're doing and we're ready, we're a little bit ready for it. So one of the reasons cravings are so painful is we only know two options. One is I'm going to give into it. And the other is I'm going to resist it. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to use willpower. I feel proud of myself when I do that, but I also know it doesn't work every time, right? Willpower is an exhaustible resource. It doesn't just run and run and run. By the end of the day, lots of times we're out of willpower. That's why evening can be hard. So we only know there's two options, and that's another thing that makes cravings really really stressful and painful and irresistible is I'm either going to willpower, white knuckle it through, I really want this, but I really shouldn't have it, or we're just going to give into it. Like the faster I give in, it's going to be over, right? I'm going to run away from that. Of course, it's going to set it up again. I think about a beautiful, wise woman that I worked with, Coleen, who she really wanted to, address drinking and eating issues. She felt like her eating and drinking were both not what she wanted them to be. They were too stressful, and it meant her weight would go up and down and up and down. And as she watched her mom develop dementia, she felt like, I don't think this is tenable. I don't think it's sustainable. I need to change this. So she trusted me. She came to me. She worked on drinking for a year, found it absolutely opened up her life in ways that she didn't expect when she changed her relationship with drinking. And then it was, okay, now I need to change my relationship with eating, but I really, really value sweets and crave them. And I know they're not good for me. And I know I need to do something about them. And I'm going to tell you in a little bit how she changed that, because it absolutely is changeable. But the fear that we bring into this kind of situation is related to feeling like there's only those two options. I can give in or I can white knuckle it. And you need to know there's more options than that. So I said I would address, why do we only crave the non-nutritious stuff, the bad stuff? Why don't we crave? I see memes about this all the time. Why don't I crave broccoli? Why can't we crave the things that are good for our body? It feels unfair, like the universe or God or somebody's being unfair to us, right? I want to explain a little of this. For me, understanding why things are the way they are helps me start to go, okay, I can handle that, right? As long as it's this mysterious process within me that goes all the way back in my past, and maybe the universe is aligned against me. As long as it's all amorphous, I don't see a way out. But we can really get empowered with information and insights, right? And clarity. So I want to help you understand a little bit about why we crave the things we do. So we human beings are wired to prioritize flavor and taste and pleasure, right? That naturally throughout most of human history led us to eat the right things. Like we didn't have to think about what the macronutrients are throughout human history, right? This is a recent thing that we're focusing on. We didn't have to do this for thousands and thousands of years. What tasted good tended to be good for us. And one of the interesting things is sweet things were never poisonous. They were never dangerous to us. So they give us a pretty big hit of pleasure, sweet things. So this tendency of the human being has been very hijacked in our current environment and is being turned against us. And this is something it really helps to be aware of, because what I have concluded, can't remember who talked about this, we live in a nutritionally deranged world. Actual nutritional derangement. One of the ways we know this is more than 80% of us now are overweight or obese. 50 to 80% of us are developing cardiometabolic disease that goes along with the kind of weight that we're gaining. So we see this just tremendous increase in these disease processes associated with the way we're eating. So what seems like in this environment, what seems like the best stuff is the non-nutritious, highly processed stuff, right? And what seems like the least appealing stuff is the stuff our body actually needs. So we're in this very deranged, highly unnatural situation. And so our brain is guiding us toward what feels the most natural, and it's leading us astray. So it really takes insight that's hard to come by in our current environment if we're going to eat in a truly healthy way that transforms things, right? So instead of feeding my cravings for things that aren't good for me and then feeling prisoner to those cravings, we can learn how to change the cravings. So that's what Coleen ended up doing. She ended up finding out very clearly, what do I need to eat that is actually good for my body? Then she started working on, okay, how can I enjoy that more? Then she started working on how can I resist? How can I stay away from the things that aren't good for me so that my taste buds and everything can change? I can start really enjoying the good foods. And then how can I make that my habit? And so maybe I'll share a picture of her after this, but I think 3 years later, she's thrilled with the size she got to. She came to me only wanting to lose 4 pounds and she lost 14 pounds, loves her size, loves how light on her feet she feels, but all these things in her body that changed, like mood and anxiety symptoms that just went away, that she just thought were part of her life now, right? Just so many things that transformed. But the biggest thing is she feels totally different about food and drink. And she just feels highly energetic in a way that she hasn't felt in decades. She feels on top of it, like it's not hard to choose what's good for you once it's super clear, right? And once you actually thoroughly enjoy what's good for you. So how do we transform our cravings versus fighting them? One thing I do want to tell you about cravings is we don't have to keep experiencing them. I want to tell you how that works. We don't want to have to keep experiencing cravings for things that aren't good for us. The other thing is when you do get a craving, it's time limited. It lasts about 10 minutes typically, and then it's over. You can think of it as neurological junk. Our brain learned that's important because it was something that gave a big dopamine hit in the brain. So whether it was alcohol or it was sugar or other highly processed things, our brain went, whoa, that was exciting. Let's get more of that. Our primitive brain thinks anything that highly pleasing that gives that big a dopamine hit is probably important for survival. Then it also thinks, that was too much. I got to make up for that dopamine. It's tricky, right? It puts us in this really trapped position biochemically. It also changes our gut microbiome. Those highly processed things feed the bad gut bacteria, and that makes it an inhospitable environment for the good gut bacteria. This makes a huge difference for not only our digestion, can be big for that, also for our immune system. The first part of our immune system is in our gut. And so it can make our immune system not function well. It can make us have inflammation. It causes inflammatory processes throughout our system. So for me, I could barely walk anymore by the time I discovered that I could change my cravings and crave the good foods. I already could barely walk anymore because of so much pain and inflammation. Let's see, the other thing it changes is things that are happening in our brain. So we get the idea, we train our primitive brain. Cravings mean I've got to give in to them. We train our brain to that because we get the painful feeling. We go, I know how to fix this. It's natural. We're going to do the quickest, easiest thing to fix it. But that's what leads us to addiction. It's like it's such a trap, right? So how can we transform our cravings versus fighting them? We don't want to keep fighting them, right? We are only going to have so much willpower to fight them. We can fight them temporarily, but eventually we got to change what we're craving. That was the big insight that I realized. So the first thing that really helps is clarity and wisdom. So we live in this deranged food environment. Within us, there's like an innate nutritional wisdom. There is something that knows what's good for us and what isn't good for us. It's been very turned against us and turned on its head, but it's still in there. So we can learn again what's nutritious to eat. It's not easy in this environment. It really is a little bit of a challenge to actually learn what's good for our body to eat and how much of it, right? For me, getting super clear. And that's what I went to the research for. What is actually good for me to eat in what quantities to get the great health results and weight loss results that I really wanted? And then how do I sustain that, right? So great clarity about how to eat is super helpful. We live in an environment where we're getting new tips many times every day. Oh, here's a tip, and here's a tip, and here's a tip. We can get the idea that if I just throw my favorite tips together, it's going to add up to great results. And that's not true in any kind of endeavor. That is just not true. Find an approach that works. This is something I've studied a lot in the field of psychology. Find an approach that works predictably and reliably, and do that, and quit searching for the latest tip. So getting super clear what's nutritious and what isn't makes a huge difference, right? And then start to get your higher brain more in charge. So when your primitive brain goes, "Ooh, we want to eat this right now. We know it's not good for us, but it's not that bad." And your higher brain has to be talked into it. Your higher brain is the part that controls your hands, what you take out of the refrigerator, what you put to your mouth, right? The primitive brain feels like it's yelling at you, but it can't make you do anything. So that it has to co-opt the higher brain. So we need to get our higher brain more in charge. Wait a minute, I hear you. One great analogy I just read yesterday was, it's like a backseat driver. It's like you got a toddler in the backseat. You're driving and you're trying to make sure that you get to the right place. You're going the right direction. You're not running over anything, right? Etc. And there's a toddler in the backseat. Go faster, hit that car, etc. I mean, for me, the things my primitive brain was telling me to eat and drink were a little bit like, go ahead and hit the car. So when you get really clear what to eat, and then you get your higher brain in charge, and you realize that, and you hear the yelling, you go, thanks for the advice to hit the car, but I'm not going to. No, we're not going to do that. That's not the best thing right now, but thank you. Once your primitive brain knows you're going to say no thank you every time, that's off the table. We're not doing that. I'm in charge. I'm driving. It quits yelling at you. It's amazing. It's like when I take my nephew to the store and he's like, "Auntie, will you buy me candy?" And I say, "I will never buy you candy, but come on, please." Nope. No matter what you do, throw yourself on the floor, crying and screaming. If you're bleeding, I'll take you to the hospital, but I will not buy you candy. He stops asking me. It's over. He's never going to ask me for candy. And our brain is the same way. I can tell you as a psychologist, our brain quits yelling at us once we're super clear. These are things I eat and drink. These are things I don't. There are people you see that have this when it comes to alcohol. No, I just don't drink. Thanks. You guys go ahead. I don't drink. I'm one of those people now. But for a long time, I felt like I can't say no. How could I say no? For one thing, I want it. For another thing, they're offering it. For a third thing, it's time of day and place where we would be drinking. So how could I possibly say no? And I felt like, I don't know who's in charge, but it's not me. It's not the wise part of me. So we have to get in this clarity and wisdom space. We have to get the wise part of our thinking, of our brain, more in charge. So one thing I started saying to myself is, it's 100% my choice what I put into my body. It's 100% my choice. I had to say it that strong to myself because, number one, that's more true than what I was saying. And number two, I didn't believe it. I had to come to believe it with practice. So in getting to clarity about what's actually nutritious to eat and what isn't, getting really clear and really wise about this, there's a lot to unlearn, because we live in an environment where the most profitable stuff, the most promoted and advertised stuff is often these cravingful, what I used to call them treats. Now I call them cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. Do you know that actually fitting that criteria is more than half of the food Americans are eating now, more than half. So even those of us who feel like I'm doing better than the average person might be way too far into eating those things, and they cause cravings, right? So we have a lot to unlearn to be super clear in this environment, because the things that are highly promoted are also packaged with all these messages saying how healthy they are. And there's all these tips out there about how this is a great way to get your vegetables, and that's a great way to get your fruit, and etc. Right? And how beneficial red wine is. There's all this advertising telling us that things that aren't good for us are pretty good for us, or at least they're not that bad. And I just came to realize when I saw this giant transformation, not only in my health, but in hundreds and hundreds of people that I work with or that I'm observing on a daily basis, it really does matter. The whole idea, this doesn't matter, this isn't that bad, tends to be a lie. As soon as you catch yourself saying this, I don't think this is that bad. What did I just say? Why did I say that? It's something that's bad, but I don't want to think it's bad because I want it. Yeah. All right, so wisdom and clarity is first step out of cravings. Second step out is choose. Make a considered choice and a firm decision. Like once you get really clear, these things are nutritious, these things are going to help my body, these things are non-nutritious and cravingful, they're going to harm my body's going to have to cope with them when it should be fighting cancer and disease and healing from all kinds of things. It's going to have to cope with these things. Plus, the non-nutritious stuff crowds out the nutritious stuff. So researchers are seeing that the changes in our health, in our weight gain and our high blood pressure and our high blood sugar, etc., look very much like what happens in populations of animals that are in a low nutrition environment. We are living in a low nutrition environment. We have to be quite intentional to get enough nutrition in this environment. It's not going to happen by accident. Makes me mad because it's really affecting our futures. Most of us now can expect to live the last 10 years of our lives sick and taking more and more medications for these diseases, and then medications for the problems those medications caused, right? It's really, really a trap. So we need to choose. One thing is to eat a lot more of the highly nutritious foods, like a lot more. Almost none of us, I have not met anyone yet, and even all the people I've met who have said, I eat a lot of those things. No, you don't. We're not eating enough of them. We need to eat a lot more of them than we think. We really would have a hard time recognizing how much of that we need to eat in this environment. So choose, get really clear what chip niffles are: cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances that are going to take all your body's energy, that are going to cause you to store fat, they're going to raise your blood pressure, your blood sugar, etc., and take them off the table. Just like with my nephew, it's off the table. I will never buy you candy. If I take these things off the table, the cravings go away really fast. It's amazing. As long as I try to keep a little, this is one thing that I realized, okay, you know this as a psychologist, but you're not acting like you know it when it comes to food and drink. As long as something is actually provoking an addictive response, a craving, and I keep a little of it, I'm keeping cravings going. So I started realizing there's a pleasure in healthy, nutritious foods that's a more moderate kind of pleasure. It's enjoyable. It's not as exciting. When it gets super exciting and I just want more and I just can't stop and it feels almost like a drug, then it's a non-nutritious food-like substance that is harming me and causing me to crave it more and more and more. It's a huge trap. So I took those off the table and the cravings stopped, 24, 48 hours. And so this is one of those terrible ideas we have in our culture that you have to have a little of these things. It's really important to have a little because they're treats. But as long as we keep a little, we're going to want more. That's the response that gets triggered in our brain, more. It also keeps our gut dysregulated. Even our gut bacteria are going, more sugar, please, right? It's also changing our hormone functioning, so we feel more hungry and more anxious, more hangry, right? And it's changing our insulin functioning, so we store more fat. Like it's causing this whole package of changes in our bodies that's like what we see in bears going into hibernation. It's not helping humans. It's something that exists in animals to help them if they're in a low nutrition environment. We're in a low nutrition environment. We can still get the nutritious foods, but it takes more intention and awareness and choice. All right. So we have to get really solid about our reasons for the way we eat and stand against our deranged food environment, eating and drinking environment, right? So when we do that, we can become really empowered. I eat the way I love to eat. Don't worry about me. Go ahead and eat your stuff. I don't care. Right? So we make a choice. It has to become an empowered choice, not something that you're doing. Let's see, am I going to do that today? That's super stressful. Like it just becomes the way I eat and I let it roll like a habit. So it goes from, I have to think about this. I really have to be intentional about it from my higher brain. It starts becoming my habit. And then my primitive brain is pushing this. My primitive brain says, this is how I eat. Yeah, this is just how I eat. I don't have to think about it so hard all the time. But we really get out of cravings when we take chip niffles off the table. Now, here's the other thing I want to tell you is your brain and your body and your sensory systems heal. So your hormones heal. So you quit storing extra fat so that when you take in calories, your body uses it for energy. I can tell you the way I sleep now, the way I wake up with energy every day, I feel 20 years younger. I feel younger in my 60s than I felt in my 40s, maybe my 30s. So I hear this and I see this with people all the time. Your body and brain really start to heal. It's like we think, I'm going to, say no to this cravingful thing, and then I'm going to keep feeling the same and it's going to suck. Right? I'm just going to keep feeling the cravings and saying no to them. That's what we're trying to escape, right? Our hormones are going to change, so we feel energized, right? Our gut microbiome is going to change, so we quit getting the inflammation that we've been having. We quit having the digestive issues we've had. Our immune system starts functioning better. Our mood gets a lot better. That's one thing that Coleen noticed when she made these changes. She'd had all this trouble with her mood and anxiety and needing light therapies and needing medications and seeing doctors all the time. A lot of irritability, a lot of anxiety. All of that transformed when she changed her eating and drinking. And a lot of that is because it changes things in our brain, but it also changes things in our gut, which is where the first of our mood and anxiety starts as well. We also are healing our brain so that, I just started to crave this thing. Now I've got to give into it. That's mental junk. That's neurological junk. We can put that junk aside and we can just say, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. Thank you. And then it quits yelling at us, right? And finally, we can really come to crave the good foods. So even our taste buds turn over in 2 weeks. I hear from people all the time, I'm really enjoying the nutritious foods a lot more than I thought I would. I'm tasting more subtle flavors. It's more interesting to me. A lot of things are sweeter than I realized. So, we live in this environment where there's all this flavor technology faking us out that this, that, and the other thing are very interesting when it's actually not interesting as far as our body goes. Our body's saying, I didn't get anything of benefit there, right? So part of it is changing our mind, right? Changing what we're saying to ourselves, changing what we believe about the cravings. And part of it is changing our behavior. So we're eating in a different way, eating and drinking things that are good for our body way more than we were, and taking the things that are not good for our body off the table. And see, you don't have to think, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. You can say, I'm going to do this. I decided I'm going to do this for a year. I got to the point where I believed I was going to end up in a nursing home if I didn't make a big change and make it fast. And so I started making these changes, crying because I was afraid what I was going to lose and how sad I was going to be. But I started making the changes in a very determined way. And I started really enjoying it. And I started feeling more energy. And even my pain and inflammation was going away. And even my insomnia and my hot flashes were going away. My brain was working better. Frankly, I was getting hours and hours of time and energy back every day. My whole life was so much better. And the 60 extra pounds of stored fat was just falling off. It's like nobody can take that away from me. I know what a difference this makes. Now, can I get the cravings started again? I can get the cravings started again. If I start saying, I think now that I've gone several years without drinking alcohol, I can have a little alcohol and it'll just be easy. It'll be no problem. Or I'm just going to start having cake once in a while, right? I can get cravings started again. I can change my system again. I can change my taste buds again. And I can start feeling like, ooh, I really need it. And I can start gaining weight again, right? It's not hard to go back to the old way, but it's not hard to stay with the new way once you actually crave the good foods, right? It gets so easy and gorgeous and natural. So does that make sense? We don't have to keep living with those cravings. It feels like it because they feel really powerful. And there are going to be at least a couple of days probably where you're having to say, no, I feel you, but no, we're okay. And where you need to distract yourself, go for a walk or something. You don't have to live with those cravings forever by any means. They can transform. Cravings can become something that serve you. Not cravings in an anxious, stressed out kind of way, but like, ooh, I can't wait to have my lunch. It's going to taste so good, right? So one of the things I started caring about is like, I'm going for this more moderate pleasure, a little bit more of a slow enjoyment, right? Not the kind of pleasure that's so exciting that I crave more of it. I know it's hurting me, but I hope it's not hurting me that bad. And it's a pleasure that comes along with stress, right? I'm not going for that kind of pleasure with my food and drink anymore. Maybe I can go for that kind of pleasure in other parts of life. I certainly have a lot more enjoyment of life, of a bigger life, eating and drinking this way, as opposed to when my eating and drinking was my pleasure. It was the focus of everything. It was an obsession. Does that make sense? I would love to hear your thoughts. From what I can see on Facebook, I don't see if anyone's with me or if anyone's leaving me comments. So if I missed your comments, I apologize. I might be looking in the wrong place. Anyway, let me know if you have any thoughts about this. I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel as well. I have a live event coming up. I'm doing these about once a month right now. The secret to easy, natural weight loss. And it's a 2-hour event where I talk about, the first hour really is all the things you have to stop doing to get results. I just found in a whole lot of areas, including our eating and drinking, if we try to, like I used to just give people the answers. Here's the answers to how to eat and drink. I found them in the research and they really work. Nobody did them. And I think it's because we have so much wrong in our head that we grew up with every day, that we believe, we've invested a lot of belief in, that there isn't room for noticing what's actually different about what works. Until we knock out some of those ideas about what doesn't work, like calorie cutting, dieting, starving ourselves. So this event, the first hour, is really telling you the things you have to stop doing and believing to finally learn what works and start doing what actually works for healthy eating and weight loss. And the second half, I teach the 5 steps to getting slender for good, slender in a way that's healthy, that's giving you your best life and longevity, and slender for good in the sense of sustainably, easily, effortlessly. I never have to diet again. We don't want to be on diets our whole lives. That's no way to live. So I'd love to have you join me for that event. Go to my website at slenderforgood.com. You can sign up for it there, or just send me a message through the website and let me know what questions, what thoughts you have, and what was helpful about this. All right, take care.